Hi there. Today is a pretty important game, hockey game for us today, hockey game. And so I'm going to be making personal sized pizzas for my family to make during the game. So I thought I would show you how I make my pizza dough, and I'll upload separately a pizza sauce recipe as well. So what I've done is, you'll notice maybe that my bowl is got a little bit of water in it, and what I've done is heated up my bowl. It's a cool day today, rainy and yucky out, so I've warmed up my bowl a bit so it's nice and warm, and I'm going to put in half a cup of 100 temperature water into my bowl. So I'm going to put in half a cup, and then I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast. This is not instant. It's called active dry yeast, and you can use instant dry yeast if you'd like to. And I just sprinkle it over top. So 1 and 2, and then over top of that, I'm going to put a teaspoon of sugar. And what the sugar and the warm water does is activate the yeast. Yeast is a live culture, and what you want to do is give it a little bit of warmth, a little bit of liquid, and a little bit of food in the form of sugar, and that brings it back to life. Yeast is in a dormant state, and this just wakes it up. So I'm just giving it a little bit of a stir, and I'm going to set that aside for about 15 minutes to let it proof. If you're using instant yeast, it would be 1 package of the instant yeast, or 2 teaspoons, and it probably would only take a couple of minutes for it to proof. So I'm looking for it to, right now it just kind of looks like a sludge, and what I'm looking for is for it to turn into a foamy, alive culture. And when it does that, I'll come back and show you the next steps. I just wanted to show you, it's just starting to come alive now, and you'll know that it's alive when you start seeing it sort of make little pops and bubbles. It means it's coming alive. If you do not see this happening within a couple of minutes, it probably means that your yeast is dead. If you've just bought it, you're probably safe. But if it's been sitting around for a while and you're not sure, this is a good way to test it. Make sure it's still alive. Just add some warm water. And if you want to know exactly the temperature, it's basically the same as a baby's bottle, or about 100 degrees. Is perfect. Anything over 110 and you'll just kill your yeast. So it could actually be active, but you don't realize that it's active because you've killed it with too hot of water. So I just thought I'd show you that while we're waiting for it to bubble. Another 5 minutes or so, or 10, and we'll have it all nice and ready to start making our pizza dough. So we'll be right back. Okay, our yeast has foamed, and there's no little bits of granules of yeast left. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the flour. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to weigh out my flour. We get very humid, very dry, off and on days all the time, and I just find the easiest way to get the proper amount of flour is to weigh it. So you don't have to. You can use about 5 cups and then just adjust it as you need to. But if you weigh it, then you know you're getting a fairly accurate amount of flour based on its weight. I'm a big fan of weighting your flour. So let's see. I'm going to still measure it in cups to see how we do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think if we use 5, we'll have a little too much. So I'm going to use So this is going to be, oh no, looks like about 5 cups. 1 more ounce. As you can see, it's just a more accurate way to be checking your flour amount to make sure that it's right. There we go. So 1.5 pounds of flour, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. If you're going to use regular table salt, I would use about 3/4 of a teaspoon. The grind is completely different, so you would need less because it's a finer grain. And about a tablespoon of olive oil. Hopefully I have a tablespoon in here. And just at the end of this needs to be refilled. Yeah, it looks like we're going to get just enough out of it. Perfect. And then we're going to add 1¼ cups of water. And again, I would just use warm. Do not use hot. It really binds your dough together. And I just find it makes it very, very hard to knead the dough after that. So what I'm going to do is just use my wooden spoon to get it started mixing and give it a really good mix. We're definitely not going to have enough water in here with 1 cup. The recipe that I like to use, it calls for 1¼ cup, so I always know I'm going to need pretty much at least that. So I know that adding 1 cup will be too little. I'd rather not add too much water that I have to start adding flour, because you really start changing the dynamics of your dough and the recipe. And then really, if you start to add too much flour, more than just a smidge, you have to start thinking about adding more salt, adding more oil. So I'd rather use too little water. And then I'm going to kind of by tablespoon amounts add a bit more. So that's about a tablespoon more. Now I'm going to start getting my hands dirty here a bit. I always take my rings off, because if you do not clean your rings out right away, which I tend to get distracted, you end up with cement in your rings that takes days to soak out. So what I'm doing now is I'm just, if you look at it now, it's really quite crumbly, definitely not a dough. But what I'm trying to do is with my hand and with my eyes decide if I need more water, and I'm definitely going to need more water. I still haven't gotten to that 1/4 cup yet. So I probably added about 2 tablespoons there, just because I have the experience. I've done this tons of times. A lot of you know that I actually owned a pizza shop. So I pretty much have an idea of what the dough should feel like. And what I'm looking for is a bit of a sticky dough, because I'm going to put it on the counter and knead it some more with probably a little bit of flour. So I'm going to want a little bit of it sticky, so that adding a bit more flour in the kneading process won't harm it. I think that probably took us to our 1¼ amount. And don't worry about over mixing it. Lots of things I've told you in recipes that you don't want to over mix it, but obviously with a bread product, what are we going to be doing? Kneading it for 8 to 10 minutes. So obviously over mixing is not an issue when it comes to bread. I'm just going to add a titch more water to the bottom, just so that I get rid of all these. See how it's really break apart looking? Lots of little bits in my bowl. I want to incorporate all of those. This is when being short becomes a bit of an issue, because I've got regular size countertops, and being short and having to work into a bowl can make life a little difficult. Okay, so what I've got here is a bit of a mucky dough. I don't know if you can see that, but it's definitely not coming together nicely. So now it's going to be starting the process of kneading. I'm not going to film 8 to 10 minutes of kneading, but I just want you to see what the dough is like. You'll see it's very sticky and very goopy and nasty looking, and we're not going to get anything nice out of something like this. So I'm going to keep kneading it, and when it stops being so sticky, it kind of starts coming together a little bit better, I may add flour, but I might find that it's just already I'm starting to feel it come together. And I'm probably going to get a stool so I can use my weight. Now this is another method that some people use. They just roll the dough one way, roll it with the other hand, roll it, roll it. So it's just a matter of what you want to try. This is something that I've used for a while, this method, when I'm doing it by hand, and then fold it in half. And it just kind of seems to not be as difficult on the body, energy-wise. Not sure why, but it's just a different method. I'm going to continue doing this, and you'll see it's starting to look a lot nicer coming together. But I've got another 8 minutes at the very least of this. So after I've done this, and what I'm looking for is none of this bumpy look. I want it to be very nice and elasticy looking. So when I start seeing that come together, I'll turn the video camera back on and I'll show you. So 8 to 10 minutes of kneading, and we'll be back. Okay, so I've been kneading this about 10 minutes or so. The one thing that I wanted to mention is that I was using bread flour, which is a finer grain flour. If you're using all-purpose flour, I would use 4 cups. Put some flour on your counter and then start kneading some of the flour that you might need extra. If you use all-purpose flour, 5 cups is probably going to be too much. So I just wanted to mention that. You can definitely do it with regular all-purpose flour, but you want to add less to start with. So basically, at the end of my kneading here, it's quite smooth, as you can tell. Very smooth here. If you have a mixer, like a KitchenAid like I do, go ahead and use that, because this is a lot of work. I did it by hand because I know a lot of people don't have mixers, and I do a lot of my recipes with mixers, but I just want to show you that everything is quite possible without a mixer. So there's a nice ball, and what I've done, I've just kind of tucked everything underneath to make a nice round ball, and you can pinch it at the bottom. One of the things that I do is I just take this bottom and I kind of push it and kind of try to knit the ends together, but you don't have to do that. We're going to be dividing up the dough again anyways. So that's it. I'm just going to put it right back in its bowl. You can oil it if you want to, but I don't really bother. And so it's there. And what we're looking for is at least double in size. So I'm going to say it's probably going to take about an hour. So I am going to put just a drop, not much, because it can mess up your next process if you put too much. So I just put a tiny drop on, oops, it flipped over. Tiny drop on there, just in case. And now I'm going to put plastic over top. I'm just going to find some plastic. I'm going to put some plastic over top here, and then a towel to retain the warmth. I've also turned on my oven to its lowest possible temperature for a couple, just for like a minute or two. Just, it was quite cold in there, so just to take it sort of to room temperature, a bit warmer than room temperature. Turned it off, and I'm going to let it sit in there to rise. So when it's finished rising, I'll tell you how long it took. I'm going to set the timer for an hour, see if that's good enough, and I'll show you how to determine if it is, I guess you want to see me, to determine if it's risen enough. And if it has, then I'll show you how to test for that. So we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so my pizza dough has been rising actually a couple hours because I'm making it for tonight. So if you want to know if it's done, you put your finger in it and just see if it holds its indent. If it holds it, that means your dough is plenty risen. So I'm just going to put this dough onto my counter. If you want to make large pizzas, this will make 4, I don't know, about 12-inch medium-sized pizzas. And I have to admit to you guys, I've actually been struggling with recipes before I did this because I'm used to doing 100 dough balls at least at a time. So I've been trying to scale it back for myself at home because I'm so used to making large batches for my pizza shop that, yeah, it's been a bit of a struggle. So I'm just cutting it into 4, and I'm trying to decide if I should do personal-sized pizzas or if I should just keep it this size. What I'm going to do is weigh these dough balls and see how much they actually weigh. And they are half a pound a piece. So this would make, yeah, say a small of a thick crust pizza, or a medium of a thin crust. So that's basically what I would use this size for, because they're about half a pound a piece. Yeah. So I'm just going to, I'm pinching my edges here. If you can see that, I'm going to move this. Just hold on, I'm just going to straighten this out and I'll come right back. Okay, so basically what we're trying to do is make these little pizza balls. So what I do is I take the underside and I pinch all corners that I have, pinch them, and I just, with my fingers, roll it along the counter. And this one's just guiding it, like this. And I put it on its end, and I start tucking it underneath. Just like this. What you're trying to do is get a nice crust. And then I just kind of round it like this. What you need to remember is this edge is going to be the where you put the toppings. So you want it nice and smooth. So I'm just going to pinch these in. And you don't, I see lots of people punching down their dough and beating it up. Just don't. So I'm just rolling it like this a couple times. What I'm trying to do is just get all my edges sealed in together as much as I can. Putting it on its bottom. If it needs it, a couple little tucks underneath. And then a nice little rounding. And so what I'm going to do now is just place it on my counter with a little bit of flour. I'll make some space out of the way here. And you can put this on a, if you've got a board, a cutting board or something like that. I'm just going to put it on my counter. And I'll show you what I'm doing over here. And I'm just going to place these here. And I've just got a plastic bag here. And what I'm going to do is just, you know what, I want this better. This is just an old bread bag. I'm just going to cut it open. I use bags and things that I've used for something else all the time. No sense wasting your plastic wrap unless you don't have a veggie bag or something already. So I'm just going to open that up, make sure it's all nice and covered, put a towel on it, and I'm going to let it rest again for about an hour. So basically what the plan is that you're trying to make this sort of in the morning or early morning. I started mine about 11, and can sit until I'm ready to use it. So it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon here. The big game starts at 5, so I want it ready for 5. I'm just going to set out all my toppings and our lovely, if you check out my other video, the lovely sauce that we made for the pizza, and have my cheese grated and all the different things that I want for the pizza all ready. So I can just lay it all out on the table with the pizza doughs all laid out flat, and my family can just put whatever toppings they like on their pizza, and we'll just stick it in the oven and bake it. So that's what we're going to do. So hopefully I'll get a chance to show you at least some pictures of some made pizzas. So I will either be back in video or in photo. My house can be quite chaotic when everybody's home, so I might just do some photos at the end to show you the process. So thanks for watching, and I'll finish off with some pizza making pictures. Have a great day. Okay, I'm just shaping the pizza dough now. So what I'm doing is creating a crust. And just pushing down the middle. And I'll kind of stick to the counter. And now I'm just going to pull it, keeping my thumb here. And then when I get about this big, I start to pull it. Don't worry, it's an elasticy dough, you can handle it. And then pull again. You're looking for the thick parts and just kind of pulling them out. I'm just shaping it. It's a pretty tough dough, it can handle. Down a bit. You can see what I'm doing. And if you kind of look at it, you can see where thin parts are, so you don't want to work those anymore. And you can do this any shape. You can do it in a cookie sheet pan, you do a rectangle. If you're going to do a full cookie sheet, I would just cut the dough in half and make 2 large pizzas from it. But I did it in 4, so I did 1 straight on the pizza stone, 2 side by side on a cookie sheet, and this one I'm going to do on a cookie sheet as well. If you don't need to make that much pizza, you can freeze your dough after your first rising. You shape them and wrap them in plastic and put them put it in the freezer. Then you put it in the fridge the night before you need it, and before you have to use it, and then the next day let it rise on the counter for a couple hours. So I'm just putting it here, and then you bake it for about I've been baking these about 20 minutes, and it seems to be plenty, and I'll show you. Just put it on here. This is what it looks like. I put the sauce, then cheese, then toppings, and I'm just letting it set and cool for a little bit. I'm just going to put some of the sauce on. Careful to not put it, you can put it right to the edge, that's fine. This will be a nice rustic tasting pizza with the homemade pizza sauce. You can definitely use canned, obviously, if you want to. And I try not to put too much cheese because it just ends up so greasy that it's actually no fun to eat. It's one mistake people make when they're doing their own pizzas. They think that some is good and more is better, but it's not necessarily the case. Sometimes it just makes it so greasy it's almost unpalatable. I'm just using the remnants of my meat. This is just the last of what I have here. And I've got some pineapple. I like meat and sweet. So I made a full meat one, a ham and pineapple and bacon. And this one's going to be meat and bacon because that's my favorite. I was going to make a veggie one for me, but I thought, oh, it's been a month since I've had a treat. And this is a big deal for us here. The time that we gather together as a family, watch the playoffs, and hopefully win the Stanley Cup tonight. If we lose tonight, we have one more game that we'll be playing, but this could be the Stanley Cup tonight, so we're preparing for a big win. And I'm just going to use some of that bacon I used when we did the pierogies. Just put some. I like it because all the fat's been rendered out, and it's just pure bacon. And I've heard from a couple people that yes, they do get it. They're Costco in the States, so now I'm just going to pop that in the oven for 25 minutes and it'll be baked like the other one. So that's pizza. I hope you enjoy it. It's lots of fun and it's delicious. And everything cost, even with going to buy meat and cheese that I didn't have, I spent $20 and I've got enough. I've got 4 medium pizzas with still cheese left over and some more ham left over and still sauce left over too. So anyways, it's a lot cheaper than ordering out, because if we order out pizza it costs us about $50. So yeah, enjoy. Have a good one.